Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback signs a 5-year, $275 million contract extension, $200 million guaranteed. And the $55 million a year, Rob, ties him now with Joe Burrow of the Bengals for the top mark in money per year. What are your thoughts on this?
It's just the NFL, and this is we keep seeing it. It's just you have a quarterback, their turn comes up, and it's not based on stats or where you fit in the game. I mean, I think of it. What was the guaranteed money, Rob G?
200.
200. And when Mahomes signed, his guarantee was 60. How? Like, none of this makes any sense to me, Chris. But this is the NFL. We talked about it before when Matthew Stafford was with the Lions. He was the highest paid player in the league. Hadn't even won a playoff game to that point. So none of this really, like, it's just if you have a quarterback, franchise quarterback, and
but Miami hadn't done it with Tua.
Not yet. But
and remember, the Ravens fought it off with Lamar and obviously ended up paying him. But Rob G, you had an interesting. This is Rob. I don't know if Rob G told you this during the break, but this will blow you away. Just the first sentence he says, and then he can give us the numbers. But go ahead, Rob G.
So this stat is courtesy of the 33rd team, all right? Daniel Jones has paid an extra year, so his numbers are going to be higher in general. But across his first 48 starts, Trevor Lawrence, 12,204 total yards. Daniel Jones, 11,992. Yards per attempt, both of them, 6.7. Total touchdowns, Trevor Lawrence, 66. Daniel Jones, 64. Total turnovers, Trevor Lawrence, 55. Daniel Jones, 54. QB rating, Trevor Lawrence, 85.5. Daniel Jones, 85.4.
That's shocking. Now, let me be Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that the numbers would be that close. That's surprising. But you got to admit, like, Trevor Lawrence, there was a time when they bounced back and they won those games in a row. I can't remember what it was.
They won a playoff game.
And then they were down 28-0 or whatever it was. And that big playoff game, that was his moment in the second half. I think he had 4 touchdowns or whatever it was. It was. You looked at him and was like, wow. And remember, he was one of those guys that they thought was a can't miss. But the numbers haven't lived up. We talked about it all last year that he took a step back. We talked about it. We thought he was going to take a step forward coming off that playoff win, right, Chris? That big playoff comeback. It just hadn't been the case.
Look, his first year, and you can say for Daniel Jones that he hasn't been in a good situation, right? But for his first year under Urban Meyer, we know that was just a disaster. And, you know, if some people don't want to hold that against Trevor, and I get it. But since then, he was better his second year. 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Rob, I mean, that's fine, particularly for your second year. But last year, Russell Wilson had 26 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. So basically the same numbers. Trevor threw for more yards. But and then this year, like you said, Rob, he took a step back. They didn't make the playoffs. Here's where I'm at on Trevor Lawrence. If I were the Jaguars, I was saying this. I've been saying it all off season. I would not have extended him. Not that I don't want him as my quarterback. I'm just saying I haven't quite seen enough. I would feel like he's probably my guy. There's reason to believe he's going to be our franchise quarterback. Obviously, Rob, the pedigree, the resume, all of that is great. But before I give somebody $275 million, I want to be sure. It's kind of the same way I'm with Tua. There's different reasons. Obviously, Tua's had the injury issues. But I'm like, look, I want to be sure. Now, Rob, I'll say this. If you know he's your guy, then it was smart to do it now. Because we always say the price is only going up.
Right. It doesn't go down. It's not going down.
If they waited a year, next year it might be $300 million. Right? So I'm with that. My take was this, Rob, and I've said the same with Tua, and I'll say it with many quarterbacks that I'm not completely sure of. If Trevor came out, Rob, this year and has a great, let's say I didn't pay him, I'm owning the Jags, and he comes out and has a great year, I will gladly pay him more. I would gladly pay him more next offseason if I am now 100% sure in my head, this is our guy. This is our guy. And Rob, they've given, this is the year for him. They given him Gabe Davis, remember with Buffalo?
Right.
Brian Thomas Jr., who's a very nice receiver they drafted in the first round. And you already had Christian Kirk. You got Travis Etienne as a running back. He's got the pieces now. This is the year to get it done. I'm just saying I would have waited, and I get it. Might have cost me more money, but I would just have more peace of mind than now. Rob, we saw a lot of guys get paid after 3 years, and the teams regretted it. Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray. Now, Murray looks like we'll see if he has a resurgence, but Murray.
He played better when he showed up, yep.
Right, and Goff obviously is fine, but the Rams ended up feeling like he wasn't their guy,
Yeah, but he wound up being on the cusp of getting to another Super Bowl. He was right there.
Well, in Detroit, he's been great, but I'm just saying, the Lions paid him early. You didn't have to pay him after 3 years. That's my thing, too, is I don't have to pay it now. And I just don't think, if it's a C.J. Stroud situation where he's shown me for 2-3 years he's that guy, sure. In fact, the sooner the better because it does keep the price lower, Rob. But I just haven't seen quite enough from Trevor Lawrence to make me 100% sure. My feeling is, he's gonna be the guy likely, but I just want to see a little more evidence before I'm willing to pony up that kind of money.
The only problem is there's so few quarterbacks. There just aren't enough guys out there, Chris. So the guys that you have, their stock goes through the roof because there's how many teams? 32 teams, and there are 9 quarterbacks, 9 or 10 quarterbacks, and that's the problem. So when you have one, if you don't have one, your season's over. So people are going to dive in with these guys because they feel like they almost have what's our alternative? Who's our alternative?
If you own the Jags, would you have paid him now, or would you take my approach where you wait to see what he does?
I just think that they think because of what they saw, and I'll be the first to say he took a step back last year. But
it wasn't like it. I mean, he wasn't awesome his second year. He was better, much better, and played well. I'm not gonna sit here and act like Trevor Lawrence isn't a good player and that he doesn't have promise and all of that. And like I said, I generally think he probably is. I mean, he clearly is now, but I think it will pay benefits. This will pay dividends. But I personally would have been like, man, I want to see. Because last year he wasn't as good. And the year before he was fine, but he wasn't, lights out. He hasn't been what he was touted to be as the number one.
I hear you. I don't know how you work against the whole idea, Chris, that you say you want to see. It doesn't mean that even if you see one more year that he couldn't have another bad year or two. I don't know how you really work against that. You got to have, to me, feel like he has what it takes to get there, or the guy's putting in the work. You feel like he wants to get better. You've seen some flashes enough to make you say, I gotta get in bed with somebody.
I just don't think we've seen that much.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I mean, that playoff comeback, he put him in the hole with 4 first-half interceptions.
I know, but they won. They came back.
Great
and won.
comeback, but that's one. Like I just want to see more, and I don't worry about, like, if I see enough. Generally, the quarterbacks who are really good, you're not equally good every year, but I don't get your logic of, well, if he played well next year, that don't mean he's not going to play. He's going to play well.
No, but
I
don't know how.
I don't get that.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, you keep saying okay, so he plays okay next year or plays better.
Well, then I don't pay him either. Again,
all right, say he plays well.
I got
say he plays,
a 5-year contract and 2 franchise tags. I don't have to pay you now. Show me something.
At some point, though, people aren't going to wait all the way to franchise tags because they want to have the guy on board. They want to know that he's has some stability, that you believe in him. There's a lot of stuff like that that goes on.
I'm not saying I want to wait till the franchise
when they were in Washington and they did that to Kirk
rushed.
Cousins, it didn't work out. Okay, Kirk Cousins left. He didn't win anything, but it didn't work out for Washington. So they did that. They didn't buy into him, and they kept waiting and waiting. And what did they have? They still got a million guys looking for a quarterback. So I'm
not saying I want to wait that long. I'm just saying I don't have to be in a rush. Ideally, I would like to sign a guy before the franchise tag. Ideally, I'd like to sign him after this upcoming season because he plays really well. He just hasn't shown me consistently, or even a lot of inconsistent times, that he's going to be this star.
So you explain to me, what are they seeing? Why do you think they signed him?
People see.
I'm asking you. I'm just asking.
I don't know, Rob. People disagree. They obviously like him. And that's fine because I think he probably is the guy. I'm just saying if I ran the team, I would want to see more evidence, more consistent play of greatness coming around the corner than I have so far. That's all I'm saying. And I know it might cost me, but I would be willing to pay that if I was more certain that he's my guy. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
So
now it'll be interesting. Because the price of a quarterback just went up. So if I'm Jordan Love, I'm just going down to the Rolls-Royce place looking around. If I'm Tua, and who else didn't get paid yet? And Dak. Are you kidding? They got to look around being like, oh, yeah, this sounds great.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Tua.
That guy got 55?
And Jordan,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know that they'll get more than Trevor. You look at his pedigree, Rob, but Jordan was better last year, obviously over the second half of the season, than Trevor's ever been for a stretch. Tua, Rob, did have a better season last year than Trevor's ever had. So there you go. And the agents are going to have the numbers and put that out there.
That's what they do.
You're right about that.